Welcome to this edition of Under the Radar for Saturday, March 18th. And then this week, we are once again going to be looking at the religion of tolerance. Punchbowl Boys High sacking. Almost 20 Sydney schools identify as at risk of radicalisation. Angry parents say their kids felt pressured into daily prayer meetings, Quranic lectures, and even cutting their hair by other Muslim Punchbowl Boys high school students. As it can be revealed, almost 20 New South Wales schools have been identified as at risk of radicalising Islamic children. The list of 19 schools, all of which are understood to be located in Western and Southwestern Sydney, have been identified for the state government's in-school counter-extremism program, which was rejected by the now-removed Punchbowl principal Chris Griffiths last year, who converted to Islam in 2014. Yeah, you heard that right. This misguided fool converted to Islam, which he has every right to do, of course, but then rejected an anti-radicalisation program. There had been claims students had threatened to behead teachers. A student had assaulted a teacher, and Mr. Griffiths had referred to police as pigs in front of teens at the school. Well, what a fantastic role model. I can't understand why he was fired. But how about the new guy? Well, he seems to be making all the right noises. Punchbowl Boy High School principal vows to teach students traditional Aussie values of respect. The man charged with turning around the state's most troubled school has vowed to teach his students, most of whom are Muslim, traditional Australian values of respect and tolerance, and to crack down on any signs of extremist behaviour. Well, that all sounds well and good, but the question is, why do these kids who were born and raised in this country need to be taught Australian values? Is that because perhaps they didn't get it at home? Because some of their parents haven't assimilated and they've passed that on to their children? Robert Petruno stepped into the eye of a storm last week when he took over as principal of Punchbowl Boys High School in Sydney Southwest after his predecessor, Chris Griffiths, was sacked for failing to implement the government's de-radicalisation program and his refusal to allow police to monitor suspected extremist students. Well, that sounds like a step in the right direction. But how was Mr. Petruno's first week as school principal? Well, it seems he ran into a little opposition. Yesterday it emerged that new principal Robert Petruno had been threatened by two unidentified men at the school. One of the men, both of whom were said to be of Middle Eastern appearance, surprise, surprise, told him in front of teachers, "We're going to get you. We're going to F you up, you dog." Now, what do you think F stands for? Do you think it was feel you up? Because if it was, then I have to ask.
Is that sexual harassment?
Oh, Jesus.
And if it was sexual harassment, that means the two identified but almost certainly Muslim men must be gay, which means they can't be radicalised because that would mean they would have been thrown off rooftops. I don't know, this all gets very confusing. Mr. Petruno briefed police over the incident but did not make a formal complaint. Now, a lot of the complaints made about the school came from parents who are Muslims themselves. As one parent said, "I don't like the old principal because this is a school, it's not a mosque. I'm a Muslim, but my son is coming here to read and write. He's not coming here for religion, and that's what it was like. I don't need problems for my son. The new principal is welcomed, and I think he's perfect." However, that's not the view of the majority. The majority of members of the school's mostly Muslim community have voiced support for Mr. Griffiths and have started a petition against his and Ms. Denau's dismissal. Ms. Denau was the vice principal. The petition had received 1,650 signatures by last night. And in the 10 days since then, it's only up to 1,810. But it is concerning that the majority of parents think that this douchebag is fit to be a principal. And I think it speaks a lie to the idea that radicalisation is a fringe issue that only a tiny minority of extremists engage in. And I'm sure the majority referred to here don't endorse extremism, but they do give cover for extremist ideology to take root by protecting those like Mr. Griffiths. Well, something is being done about it, so we'll see what happens. But it appears it's not just public high schools we need to worry about in Punchbowl. It's primary schools as well. Punchbowl public teacher blows the whistle on Islamic extremism at school. Students are showing signs of extreme radicalisation as early as Year 5, including threatening to behead teachers, bullying peers into reading the Quran, and even demanding the Syrian flag be put up in the classroom. Documents obtained by the Daily Telegraph reveal how frightened teachers at Punchbowl Public School have resorted to making formal complaints over fears of religious violence inside the classroom. It's also understood at least 3 teachers have taken stress leave, received counselling, or been paid compensation because of bullying from Islamic students. The primary school is a feeder facility to Punchbowl Boys High, which has been at the centre of a political storm after former principal and Islam convert Chris Griffiths was sacked when he refused to implement state government's de-radicalisation program. So this is great. Radicalise them in primary school, then feed them into a high school that does the same, all on the back of the public taxpayer. You don't even need to have religious schools at this point. Revelations of the disturbing reports come as a former teacher at the school at the time, who was asked to be known only as Mrs. A, revealed her nightmare experiences, including death threats from Islamic students. Mrs. A said she was forced to leave the public education system after students in Year 5 threatened to kill her family. She claims multiple complaints to the Department of Education was simply dismissed. After only 2 years of teaching Year 5 and 6 students at Punchbowl Public, the mother of 2 handed in her resignation. Some students would act out beheadings with their fingers across their necks, she said. I had incidents where the kids wanted to fly the Syrian flag in the classroom, or they would wear headbands. But when you say no, they start getting abusive. A lot of kids talk about their uncles and cousins who are fighting the war in Syria. They are allowed to get up and walk out of class at prayer time, and we can't stop them. By the time they get to high school, their learning has been impaired because they've been preoccupied with social issues regarding Islam. In one incident, Mrs. A said 2 Year 5 students pushed her into a corner during a creative arts lesson and chanted the Quran in Arabic around her. An incident report was filed, but the only punishment was to take the children off the playground during lunchtime. Mrs. A was told to go to the police if it was such a big deal. She was also left threatening notes saying students would kill her family, and red writing saying, "F your family," was left on a computer room log for her to find. There we go again with that vague F word. Maybe they just meant friend your family, like on Facebook or something. And here's Mrs. A on camera talking about her experience.
Do you want to just tell me a little bit about your experience as a primary school teacher at Punchbowl and what, radical or extreme behaviours you encountered?
Okay, yeah, sure. What I had noticed over the period of time in my second year at the school was an increase in the radicalisation of students, particularly at the time that ISIS was quite in the media. Students were coming into class demanding that they could fly the Syrian flag, demanding that they could fly the ISIS flag. When they were told that they couldn't, they would become quite aggressive, and intimidation tactics were used against myself and other teachers. Later on throughout the year, there was death threats against myself and my family, to harm my family. There was also another incident where I was surrounded by a group of students, and those students would read the Quran to me, chant verses from the Quran in quite an aggressive manner as well. Again, it was to try to intimidate me. There were functions where halal-owned food was occurring at the directive of the principal or the acceptance of the principal.
Well, I guess that should give us all some confidence in our public school system. And of course, we have the usual reassurances from the Department of Education. The Department of Education Secretary Mark Scott spoke to Ray Headley on 2GB Radio this morning and assured the community the department was focused and engaged. Well, I feel much better now after he dropped a few buzzwords, focused and engaged. Mr. Scott said these behaviours from young children are brought into the school from the home. The issue is, where did they learn to say that? Where did they learn to do that and learn that that was appropriate behaviour? These children arrive at the school having learnt these behaviours, Mr. Scott told the radio station. Ah, I see. So you're saying that 10-year-olds didn't learn to chant Arabic from the Quran at a public school. They must have learned it at home. Wow, who would have thunk it? I think Mark Scott must have missed his calling in life. He should have been a detective. Now, this article also has a link to another article which suggests the Education Department has been asleep at the wheel on this issue for years. Punchbowl Boys High School radicalisation going on for years, says prominent Muslim leader. A prominent Muslim community leader says radicalisation problems have been going on at the state's most troubled school, Punchbowl Boys High, for at least 6 years, and has hit out at the state government for not acting sooner. Sunni community leader Jamal Dawood slammed the New South Wales government for turning a blind eye to support of Islamic extremism by some students in the school and said the intervention should have occurred years ago. Mr. Dawood also told the Daily Telegraph that a holistic approach needed to be taken for tackling extremism within the school and that mosques should be investigated. I like the cut of this guy's jib. That hasn't been mentioned in all this. What role are mosques playing? We know they're not innocent. I mean, what better place to get the idea that women should be treated differently to men than a mosque? Mr. Dawood said he had heard concerns about extremism within the all-boys school since 2011. It's been going on for years, he said. I had a friend whose son attended the school and was worried about extremism. There was violence and radical name-calling. Mr. Dawood said radicalisation spread like a disease and called on government to investigate the source of the alleged extremism at the school. It is an organised process that starts at home, school and at the mosque, Mr. Dawood said. My friend whose son attended the school himself ended up becoming radicalised, and the things he had once seen as wrong, he started to see as right. That's why the New South Wales government needs to investigate the source of the radicalisation. And that's right, it's not enough to go to schools and tell Ahmed not to recite the Quran at his teacher. Parents have to be told there is no place for this crap at a public school, and they will be held responsible. But let's finish on an even more pessimistic note. This article appeared in The Australian on Monday, which argues that Islam should not be an exception when it comes to criticism, which shouldn't be a controversial position to take in a Western democracy that believes in free speech. But unfortunately, in the age of political correctness, we can't take that for granted, as there's a large contingent of people in this country, and others like it, that don't really believe in free speech at all, especially if someone's feelings get hurt. Islam shouldn't be an exception. Ayaan Hirsi Ali is coming to Australia soon to speak about reforming traditional Islam and confronting militant Islam. There are people and organisations trying to prevent her from coming or speaking. They describe her as an extremist who engages in hate speech. They are in error. She must be allowed both to come here and to speak. Over the past week, the organisation hosting her, Think Inc., has been harassed. Its insurers have been contacted and warned there could be trouble. Venues where she's scheduled to speak have been contacted, warned there'll be protests, and urged to cancel her engagements. Bill Leak, were he still with us, would have a field day with this. Much of this has been done by an individual called Syed Murtaza Hussain of the Council for the Prevention of Islamophobia, Inc. He informed Festival Hall in Melbourne there would be 5,000 protesters outside the venue if the engagement went ahead. There have been other initiatives, including an abortive appeal on change.org to prevent Ali from speaking. And pathetically, this petition has garnered a grand total of 271 signatures in almost a month. But I think this is the key takeaway of the article. In a liberal society, one is free to choose and to change one's religion. One is free to not adhere to any religion, and one is free to inquire, read, speak, and write critically of religions, political ideologies, and other matters, including law and morals. Wherever Islam, whether Sunni or Shia, rules, however, it makes itself an exception to such liberties. Its militant adherents are actively seeking to extend that regime of religious exceptionalism and intolerance in the Western democracies by attempting to ban any criticism of Islam. Ali opposes them candidly, and they deeply resent the fact that she's been finding an audience. We must insist on her freedom of speech and resist efforts to censor or intimidate her. Absolutely. So I just wanted to flag this, as Ayaan Hirsi Ali will be coming to Australia in April and no doubt will court controversy wherever she goes and speaks. But if you have the chance to go and see her speak and support her, then I encourage you to do so. And here are some dates and places where you can do that. So that's it for this week's Under the Radar. Don't forget, if you have any suggestions for next week, drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or consider supporting me on Patreon. See you next time.